This now marks the 6th time that I have suited up for a Keanu Reeves related video. The other 4 or 5 times were for the Matrix movies and for John Wick Chapter 4. And now I'm talking about Constantine, which is 20 years old as of right now. At the time that you're seeing this video go up, it is actually the 20th anniversary. February 18th is when the movie came out in 2005, and it is now 2025 on that same day. And it's also coming out in 4K this week, so you can get a chance to get it with an upgraded quality. This is one of those movies that is similar to The Crow for me when I talked about it last year, in that both of them are movies that I have seen in the past, but it's also interesting looking back on them because I watched them in like snippets. I had to wait a while to do a proper rewatch of either of those two. With The Crow, rewatching it and really getting to experience it was a lot of fun, and it led to a really great experience, and the movie was fantastic. And rewatching Constantine right now, 20 years later, a lot has changed when it comes to this movie. At the time, I remember when it came out, the reviews were not exactly super positive. They were very mixed and divided pretty much down the line when it came to critics, and the critics who didn't like the movie were quite harsh against it. In fact, Roger Ebert put it on his list of like most hated movies. However, in the time since then, it has gotten a bit of a cult following, and many people have come around on Constantine and come to really enjoy what this movie is doing, especially when it comes to how the character was adapted from the comics to the big screen. At the time that I'm doing this, they're also working on a sequel finally, and it seems like that might really be happening soon, which is a very exciting thought, because when you watch this movie, something that really hits you is that Keanu Reeves is really good as this character. Just capturing this period of him where he seems to be going through it when it comes to his health, when it comes to the job that he's been doing. He doesn't really understand how much more he needs to do of it in order to find himself some kind of absolution, because by the faith, because he tried to commit suicide at one point of time, hell is the only solution. Like, that's the only thing that's gonna happen to him. But he's trying to get enough souls back to hell, those who have escaped it, in order to try and find some kind of, salvation in the process, which may or may not be working. But he's also dying because he's smoking tons of cigarettes a day pretty much, and it's starting to affect him, and he's got cancer now. And so the clock is ticking for him throughout the movie. In fact, in a lot of ways, I would say Constantine is one of the best anti-smoking PSAs you can find, because this movie really showcases how bad it is if just smoke pack after pack after pack, even despite the fact that you have, superpowers and abilities. It's just one of those things. But the way the movie does eventually progress as he meets Angela Dodson, played by Rachel Weisz, who's lost her twin sister Isabel after she seems to have jumped off the hospital building, it turns out that there's a little more to it and why any of this might have happened. And as the story progresses, getting to understand how Angela and Isabel seem to have these abilities when it comes to understanding the world that's just beyond them, and just experiencing things that any mere mortals would probably find bizarre, and eventually learning to embrace some more of that, is something that the movie does do very effectively. And both Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz have really great back and forth as the movie goes on, and despite the quiet, mysterious nature of Constantine, and one that has seen enough to the point that nothing really surprises him anymore, despite that, the two of them are able to share a connection. And it's easy to see as the movie is going on why it eventually did develop that following, really finding the hidden gems that are here, especially when it comes to how it's directed and how it's shot. Francis Lawrence did a really, really good job with the movie. In fact, there's a lot of sequences where you get to see some incredible work from him, and there are some really great shots in here as well. Some of the CGI in those shots is wonky at times, especially whenever you descend into hell. Some of it is really great, and there's a couple of times where the landscapes and stuff do look genuinely very impressive. But then there are times where you see the demons that seem to be crawling in within people, like you see their raw form, and you think, okay, that could be better, for sure. But besides that, I would say that there is a lot of impressive stuff going on here. And when it comes to some of the more practical moments and some stuff that you can do with like, close-ups and all, like there's a point with Balthazar, which is very impressive, like especially with the half face melted effect that he has at one point. That was really cool. And so it has those things to overcome the lapses in the sequences where, things don't look as great. It's got a great score too from Brian Tyler and Klaus Badelt, which is very nicely done, very eerie, very much drowns the movie in that, very dark sense of things and the keeping with the tone of it. And I do like the fact that it showcases LA in that dark and dreary way throughout. Like there is something about it that very much just, keeps it to a few people at a time. Don't expect this movie to be, crawling around with tons of people, because there are many sequences where it's not. And most times it's just what characters that we're following can see in specific moments of time. And again, how it captures that was very cool. Eventually, when you come to other side characters, there are also some really good ones over there. Chaz, played by Shia LaBeouf, is one who wants to be part of, more adventures with Constantine. Eventually, he does end up doing a little bit. Jimon Honsu as Midnight was very cool. And every time I see Jimon Honsu in a movie, it's one of those things where you can't help but feel like I want to see him in more stuff, man. This man has star presence, like in every single thing that he's in. And that is very much the case again for a movie like Constantine. He's really good over here. But I would say my favorite supporting turn in this was Tilda Swinton as Gabriel. There is a certain sense of fun to this performance that, once again, when it comes to the idea of doing a sequel, I hope they find a way to bring back Gabriel. Gabriel's not dead at the end of the movie, so I have a feeling you could do a little bit more with that, and that would be great because Tilda Swinton is very good as the character. Gabriel's idea of bringing Mammon back to Earth, the son of Satan, is also rooted in this aspect of who deserves to, be given absolution and sent to heaven and who doesn't. Because the plan is pretty crazy in that when Mammon is released upon the earth, it will create hell on earth, quite literally, and those who survive, the pain and the anguish will be worthy of God's love. Which is obviously, as someone with Constantine's background, someone who has been to hell and back with this idea of, trying to kill as many demons as possible and stop any half-breeds from coming back and preventing more, balance being disrupted. To have that, be the idea of the villain. Of course, that's something that doesn't sit right because that that's not exactly something that works, especially when it comes to people who might be affected who, are not worthy of such pain. And so the movie raises some interesting questions in that sense too, when it comes to faith, when it comes to the power of belief, when, whether or not some things are correct or not, like in the grand scheme, the working of it all. But then Peter Stormare as Lucifer, when he came in at the end of the movie, I have to imagine this is one of those other things where they gave him the character the notes and they're like, just do what you got to do with this, just go ham, see what comes out of it. If it works, great. If not, we'll see what to do, because it very much feels like that kind of performance where he's just going for it, and I think for the most part it's pretty effective, as bizarre and weird as it is in a couple of moments. I would be remiss though if I didn't talk about the Dragon's Breath action sequence, which is now that makes it the second time that I've talked about a movie with a Dragon's Breath thing used in a movie with Keanu Reeves. So that's fun, it's one of those things where when you watch John Wick, there's a lot of references here to things that Keanu Reeves has done before, and I guess that one brought that one around, so that's fun. I will say the movie is not perfect. There are things about it that could be a bit better. Balthazar as a secondary villain doesn't really do much. He does pretty much what he has to do, which is serve as kind of a connector point for a couple of characters to be in specific spots. And there is a creepy moment with him where Father Hennessy is trying to get alcohol and he can't seem to drink anything, and that eventually he dies. So that was pretty creepy. Really, it turns out to be kind of a setup for the bigger villains when it comes to what Gabriel is doing and what Mammon is trying to achieve through Angela, eventually possessing her and trying to get out of her. There were some emotional story beats that I think could have been hit a little bit harder, that we often speed past a bit when we're trying to get to the next thing to stop whatever annihilation on Earth seems to be coming. There's a few things in terms of, dialogue exchanges and stuff like that could have been a bit more fine-tuned, but I still think that there's a lot to appreciate in it, and I fully understand why it developed the cult following that it did. And 20 years later, it feels like that following has just gotten even stronger. And I am excited to see if they get to do that sequel, because I would love to see Keanu Reeves back in the role. I think he's really great over here, and I think there's a lot more story that you can do. I mean, the no rest for the wicked, right? Is that what they say when it comes to that stuff like this? So may as well make it happen. So guys, Constantine is 20 years old. It'll be on 4K, like I said, this week, so you should definitely pick it up if you get the chance to. And if you have seen it, let me know what you guys think about it. What are your feelings on the movie? Did you always like it? Have you never liked it? Leave them all in the comments down below. Guys, thank you very much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Thank you very much once again. And I'll see you guys at the movies. There we go.